Alright, so the next step here is to get the intake out of here. So we're going to disconnect these two coolant lines because this is all connected over here, and I'm not going to. I could unbolt it, but I don't think I am. Let's see. Oops. It's hard to tell. I can't tell if that's, nope, 2 bolts. So maybe I will just unbolt the coolant line. That way I don't have to unplug them. And then I just kind of got to work my way unplugging everything here. So let's do that. These look like 10s pretty much. That's what we're going to go with. Alright, so far I unbolted the 2 coolant lines here on the side. I just put the bolts right back there where they belong. I took off this vacuum for the throttle body. That's what that plugs into, the engine connector. Now I don't know how I'm supposed to get my hands down inside of here to reach these 3 or 4 plugs, so I'm hoping that once I get the manifold bolts out, it comes up enough where I can get to those plugs, or at least turn it enough so I can get to those plugs. So that's my next thing. That's my next goal. And then the manifold bolts themselves are 12s. So far everything I've worked on is 10, so I need to hunt down a 12 real quick, and we're gonna see about getting that up out of there. Alright, so I got the 5 bolts out, and this side is definitely free. This side is free, but it feels like we're hung up on something over here. And I can't see anything that it's bolted to. So I'm gonna have to look underneath. So we have this line here that has to be disconnected, but the clamp is on the damn back side, so no way to reach it with anything. So that's got to come up. Yeah, I don't know. Something definitely is holding it on this side. So I'm going to crawl underneath here real quick and see if I can see anything. I didn't see anything in the book, but sometimes the manuals don't show every single nut and bolt. So, all right. So I'm going to crawl up underneath there. Hopefully I can figure out what's holding it on this other side, and I can get it out of there. While I'm down here, it's not too dirty. Some of that dirt was in the bottom of this catch bucket anyway, but alright, slide that out of the way. Apparently the ants are loving it. They're all over the place down here. Alright, so I'm going to have to figure out what's holding that intake manifold up in there. Okay, here we go. Okay, I can't really see anything that's holding the bottom of the intake. Now this line right here, oops, right there, that goes up to the bottom of the intake manifold. That's for your oil cooler, supposedly. So I am going to go ahead and disconnect it right here. See if that gives me any space, because it moves a little bit, but then it's hanging on something, and I don't really see anything other than the starter, but I don't see any brackets going up there. So since I got to get this intake manifold out anyway, and this oil cooler is coming off because I'm putting in an actual oil cooler, so that's going to come off. I'll get a new oil filter. So yeah, we're going to pull this one. I just don't see anything. So if nothing else, I just may put the brakes on this for a few minutes while I go inside and look at the manual, maybe Google this up and see if somebody has a suggestion as what's holding it. We will have to see, but first things first that line goes. Alright, so I got that line off. Having a set of pliers that has a hook really does help get that clamp, and it allowed me to get a hold of the hose and push on the outside from a decent distance. So now we'll get up here and see if that made any difference. Nope. All right, so I got to start looking. All right, I think I found it. There seems to be a bolt right here where my finger is. Feels like it goes from the plastic into that back of the block. I think that's the block. Might be the transmission. It's hard to tell. Nope, that's the block. Okay, so yeah, it feels like a number 12. So let's see if I can get that out of there. Okay, that seems to be it. Yep, that was it. So, and of course the bolt fell into the bucket I'm collecting antifreeze in. Okay, so that is now loose. Now I just got to figure out how to get all these clamps off so I can get this out of here far enough. So that's the next step. All right, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got one left right there, that gray one. And no matter how I get my hand in there, I cannot depress it. Now it should be just like this black one right here. And all I should have to do is push on the edge a little bit and it should open right up. But I can't get my hand in there to do that. And I can't get a screwdriver in there to do it, because then I don't have a way to pull on the line. Trying to see if I can get a better angle. Yeah, I don't know. It's see if we can zoom in a little bit. See, it's exact same plug, just a different color. So that is definitely holding me up. And then there's still something hanging onto the manifold on the bottom. It moves, so I'm thinking it's another one of those rubber hoses. So looks like I'm gonna have to go back underneath and see what else I can take apart. All right, so a bit of finagling. There was a 10 right here. I was able to get the 10 out. I just had to lift the manifold. This is the hose that goes to the oil cooler. And this one here, I need to get out. And I think, other than this 110 that is holding that group of that 10 right there, I don't know if you can see it, there it goes. So this 10 that's right here between these two plugs, I think if I can get that 10 out of there, I can disconnect all these plugs off the manifold and it should come right out. It's taken a bit of finagling to get here, so and then once we get it out, we'll see what we have to work with. But the first thing I'm gonna do is try to get my pliers on that clamp there and get that shit out of the way, because that's not going back in, because like I said, I'm disconnecting all of the coolant stuff for the oil and the throttle body, so all of those hoses are going. Alright, so with a little twisting and a little maneuvering, I was able to get the clamp pushed down, and now the trick will be to get this hose off. It's on there pretty good. I'll have to see if I can break it free. And when you know it, once I got that one out of the way, there's one more. But I think that one's disconnected. I'm trying to think. I believe, or is it? Oh yeah, it should be disconnected. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, that one's disconnected. All right. So, see if I can get this last 10 out of here. All right, so that took a bit of finagling. So I had to get this line off right where my finger is, which is this bottom line here on the intake. That has got vacuum to it. This upper line goes to your PCV valve, or whatever you want to call this valve up here. But these two are coolant lines. One comes up from the oil cooler right there. That's where the hose is off. The other one is still connected to the block, and that takes coolant from the block to that, then back up, and then out this line through this line, and this connects into your throttle body, and then it goes back up into the head. So we will be getting rid of these coolant lines and going straight from the block back into the coolant line. So we'll go from over here, we'll get a new line, and we'll plug it into this one, and that will be that. And that will get all of the heat out of the intake. All right, so I think that's what we're going to do for tonight. I'm going to move this up out of the way, or not for tonight, for today. And I will get back on this later. Trying to see here what else I can get to. All right. So not a very easy task. I did have to get the 10 mil that was holding this wire group out of the way. I had to get the 10 mil that was holding that wire group out of the way. How I'm going to put them back, I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes back together. All right. So looking at this coolant line right here goes right there, just past this thing. So if I connect that coolant line to this block line back here, then I can bypass everything that was coolant line. I wonder if I can find a coolant line that's got a little bit of a bend and a little bit of a bend to make it work, or get a straight coolant line and figure out a way to make that work. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to have to figure out, is where the coolant lines are going to go. I wonder how dirty this is. Not bad. Kind of surprised. So I can see a little oil on the valve there, but that's kind of normal. But the intake's not too bad. So, all right. So the fun part now begins. So the next stage will be getting the alternator out of the way, changing the belt, the pulley, the water pump, and the thermostat, which is hidden underneath the alternator down there. So we'll get that knocked out of the way, start putting that back together. Like I said, I'll hunt down the hose or a hose of some kind to replace that. I'll also work on getting the oil cooler, old oil cooler out of there. That's my next step. So I'll pick this up a little later, and we'll be on day 2 still.